So the NFL draft is over, and the biggest story is Shedeur Sanders getting drafted, or when he got drafted. Because for the first couple of days, that's all you heard about. He went. When is he going? When is he going? When is he going? We thought he was gonna go top 10, and then they were playing around saying he was gonna slide. But I didn't think he was gonna slide this far. This is the first situation I ever seen where a player's hype made them slide this far. Like I've seen some slides and people like hop off of the hype for whatever reason, but I'm looking for answers too because honestly, I think Shedeur Sanders has a high floor in the NFL. Now, the ceiling, I don't know. He seems very accurate. Uh, is it some stuff he can clean up holding on to the ball? Yeah, but you can coach that out of him. The reason they give about Dion, that's the only other thing I can think of is saying like, hey, you've never had a head coach who wasn't your father, so how are you gonna deal with adversity? But that's the only valid reason, and even I take that with a grain of salt because he has to deal with offensive coordinators and other teammates and things like that. It's not just like it's him and his dad out there. So I'm interested to see if this video can shed any more light on the real reason Shedeur Sanders fell in the draft.
Sanders not picked yet.
With the 144th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.
I've never seen a player fall so far. Their only explanation is the devil. The devil!
This ain't God. This the devil. This devil.
And then be immediately proven correct when the Browns draft you.
The Cleveland Browns select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado.
Usually, like in the NFL draft, the Browns been bad for a long time. If the Browns is drafting you, you go in top 10 or first round because they just usually bad. Now, Kevin Stefanski has changed and turned the program around, but since they let Baker go and brought in Deshaun Watson, it's been tough the past couple years. So I was kind of shocked that the Browns took him after the Dylan Gabriel pick. So it's just like, it just seems like a Browns thing. I'm sorry if you're a Browns fan, but y'all like, to me, y'all tripping.
And why were they teabagging the pick on the stage? Who thought this was a good graphic? Who thought this didn't look like testicles? Shedeur Sanders not going in the first round? A little bit of a surprise. Shedeur not going in the second round? Incredibly surprising. Not going in the third round?
Unprecedented slide happened.
Not going in the fourth round? Inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
Inconceivably wrong.
Inconceivable.
We've literally never seen a player who was at one point the consensus number 2 quarterback, a surefire first round pick, fall all the way out of the first 4 rounds of the draft.
And I see these like so-called, I'm not gonna deem myself an expert, I'm just a football guy, but these people who like evaluate talent, they're like here's the reason why. I get some teams, they just didn't need them. Like all 32 teams probably just didn't need them for where they were drafting at, and they either had a quarterback or they were going a different direction, or they had a free agent that they was banking on and they was trying to build capital. Not every team needed a quarterback of the future or a rookie QB. So I get that aspect of it, but like these Pittsburghs of the world, like Cleveland still ended up with 2 quarterbacks, but like the Pittsburghs of the world, why? You could have had both the guys because they took Will Howard. That's his name. They took Will Howard. You could have took Will Howard and Shedeur Sanders. And if you was banking on Aaron Rodgers so bad, you could have had Shedeur Sanders, Aaron Rodgers, and Will Howard. And then Mike Tomlin, you got 3 quarterbacks to rotate through if you want to. They all got different styles. So I just don't get it.
We've seen prospects help their case significantly in the evaluation process, the combine, pro days, private visits, etc. But in terms of a quarterback falling further than the Mad Men intro, unprecedented. If you want to understand how big the Sanders name is, look no further than Texas QB Quinn Ewers, who's sitting in his home waiting to be drafted and viciously killing a new animal every hour he's not drafted. That's happening, and all we can talk about is Shedeur Sanders? Nobody had Quinn Ewers as PETA's #1 overall target. Now, Daniel Jeremiah had Shedeur as the 20th best player in this draft. PFF had him at 45, CBS at 28. So the Cleveland Browns quite literally got the best value pick in this draft class and maybe in any draft class in terms of pre-draft evaluation versus where a player went.
Unless he goes in the 3rd round, number 83, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had a discussion about him. Precedented slide, and everybody's trying to figure out exactly how this can be.
The NFL has been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks.
And it wasn't just the Mel Kipers of the world who were perplexed out there. It was guys we think very highly of.
We are in the 80s. You know, at this point in time, the ability warrants a selection. Way past that time, in my opinion.
Thank you.
And I expect, hopefully for Shedeur, better things today than he got yesterday.
Nobody had a clear answer.
His formal interviews did not go well. One assistant coach told me in all his years, it was the worst formal interview he'd ever been through.
The NFL is looking at him like he's our prime suspect of somebody we can make an example out of.
What does that mean?
So today, Brandon...
I mean, like this ain't the Boy Scouts club. Like there's been rich kids drafted. There's been problematic players drafted high, and they're just like, oh, we could fix them. We could fix them. So I think that's really like a grasp at a straw. Like I said, the biggest thing I probably think people would hit on is he only played for his dad. That's the biggest thing for red flag for me, because I mean, the players who got drafted, and I hate comparing because it's different eras and different things go on. But I think of the Ryan Leafs of the world. I think of they said Will Levis had character issues. They said shit like Jamarcus Russell. I don't know why I was blanking on that, but Jamarcus Russell, like just because he was talented enough, they just straight up took him. So I just don't get it.
Perna, undrafted sports YouTube guy, will do my best to illuminate the real reasons Shedeur Sanders fell all the way to the Browns in the 5th round of the draft after they had already drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and we are 180 signups at Underdog away from hitting 6,000 signups. If we hit 6,000 signups, I get a massive bonus for this YouTube channel. We are so close to hitting that goal, so if you want to play in daily fantasy or in pick'em.
All right, come on.
Now, the funniest tweet in regards to Shedeur Sanders came from Skip Bayless. And by funny, I mean unintentionally. Skip, in all caps, told us, "What's happening to Shedeur Sanders is the most stunning and disgusting development in NFL draft history." I don't know if I would say disgusting, but it is odd. One big reason Shedeur fell: Skip Bayless's unadulterated endorsements.
The Tennessee Titans tonight made a monumental mistake, a mistake they will forever regret, by taking Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders with the 1st overall pick.
Nothing will frighten an NFL coach or general manager like Skip being all in on a guy. The only thing worse for a quarterback? Getting an endorsement from Donald Trump. He did it to Johnny Manziel just like Skip. And the only thing worse than that is getting an endorsement from Antonio Brown. Oh, fuck, maybe this is the work of the devil.
This the devil.
It wasn't cute after 21.
The most stunning thing to me, honestly, is that it looked like Deion Sanders had no clue this was coming. None of his NFL connections, and he has a lot, gave him a dose of reality to help curb the expectations. That is indeed legendary.
Yeah, this is why it seemed like this was planned. That's why it seems like it's planned. I don't care how bad he interviewed. He could have went in there and said, I don't want to answer your question, or he could have threw a middle finger up to them every single time, in his interviews. It couldn't be that. It couldn't be that. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that out of the NFL. I think bro hit it on the head when they just like we just gonna make an example out of you or humble you. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it was because we know the Browns are gonna take you anyway, but we're gonna make the Browns take you. I seen the graphic where it was like $45 million versus $4 million that he made. So I don't know if it's a money thing or they trying to, because that's how much his rookie contract would have been. Because Ashton Genty just signed and he's the second highest paid player or running back behind Saquon Barkley. So I'm like, maybe it's not.
He's got legendary all over. It's as if that's his wallpaper.
In terms of the slide, Dion is part of the problem.
I think we all know that.
Had that outside of the Dion brand being too big for his son's true skill set, one problem here is Shedeur Sanders doesn't have an agent. Dion is representing him. Why is that relevant? Well, the Sanders inner circle doesn't have a truth teller. You need an agent to act as a buffer between Dion and Shedeur and NFL teams so you can get honest feedback. If Dion is out of the loop, that means he's failing as an agent. Agents are in the loop. Dion is too well liked across the league, so if he calls an NFL team like he did after hearing about Shedeur's alleged bad interviews, he's getting sugar-coated responses or flat-out lies about how these teams were actually viewing Sanders. Instead of hearing what he needed to hear, he heard what he wanted to hear. I honestly believe an agent could have helped them address some of the concerns these teams clearly were having. Or, more likely, Dion would have probably fired the agent who was telling them the truth, and we'd be in the exact same situation regardless. Shiloh Sanders knew. He talked about Dion dropping the ball as their agent, so he said he hired one.
Dad was our agent, but that hasn't been working out too good, so today I had to sign with an agent, bro, so we gonna see what happens.
Hey, that's the best explanation I have gotten as to what's going on besides these analysts and these people who are covering the draft and all of this stuff. Like, yeah, the talent is there, but like if he could have just said A instead of B during his interviews, because I don't know what the hell he said or what they asked. They asked some wild shit during these like pre-draft interviews and visits. So maybe he should have just got an agent. I don't know why Dion put that on himself. Don't you got like a whole team to run in Colorado, and you being an agent to him too? So I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe we could grasp onto that.
Say what you want, though. I do like the way that Shedeur and Shiloh were handling this, but at least they were laughing about it. So no agent. Problem 1. Problem 2, Shedeur must have really been unimpressive in his interviews.
It'd be funny, some of the memes, though. I went in the meeting. Who was it, Bobby Schmurda? He was on the table.
Oh, yeah, when he was performing for the label.
I imagine this is how one interview went.
You're hired. You're in, unless you're like the weirdest guys ever and I don't see it.
Great.
I'm just now noticing all of the Raiders memorabilia in that scene. Did Step Brothers accurately predict Shedeur Sanders' Raiders interviews that long ago? It's almost as funny as Dion saying no quarterback should ever go to the Browns. Now, Tom Pelissero dropped an article the day before the NFL draft in which an anonymous NFL executive said Shedeur gave the worst player interview he'd ever been a part of. We all felt that might have been a little bit hyperbolic. Kyle Brandt vehemently defended Shedeur on the NFL Network.
Shut up, anonymous coach. I am so triggered by this. Shut up.
Shut your mouth.
I needed someone
Wait,
to
shut your
work
mouth. Shut your mouth.
This is not only anonymous, I think it's tasteless. I think the timing is ridiculous. Maybe the vibe that you set in the room was critical, and Shedeur picked up on that.
You're just coming off stupid.
But that wasn't the first time we heard his interviews weren't going well, right? That info surfaced back at the Combine, where he also did not work out. Matthew Berry posted all the way...
Okay, that's not a reason, though. All right, if he interviewed shitty, let's nick that. But that could have been cleaned up with the agent. Second part about that, NFL teams is going to draft you regardless. Ain't nobody pulling no Eli's. At least not anymore. They gonna draft you if they want to draft you. But a lot of players don't throw. They don't run. Lamar, for example, did not run. He did not run a 40 because everybody wanted him to play receiver and all this other stuff. A lot of players don't do the bench. They don't work out at all. They just go up there and they talk to the media. Or some player, like it's just so it's not a normal. It's not out of the ordinary for him not to work out, and I don't think that should be a nick on him because he got tape. He got over 4 years of tape. So if you want to see that, you want to see that. You're not drafting him to run the ball or do anything like that. So like his measurables is not gonna push him over the top. Like somebody like Anthony Richardson or Jalen Milroe, their measurables is gonna put him over the top if they test well. He really didn't need that.
Way back on March 4th that two separate teams independently of each other said the meeting was bad and he seemed disinterested. The only positional player that really cannot have a bad interview is the quarterback. You've got to win over someone somewhere. The only exception is being the most insane athlete on the field. Deion and Shedeur had no clue that they needed to win over people at the combine or in the interviews, especially if Shedeur wasn't going to work out. To get to specifics on a bad interview, the one that probably cost him the most was with Brian Daboll of the Giants. Todd McShay dropped this nugget on his podcast.
Shedeur's not in play with the New York Giants, as far as I'm told. Shedeur didn't have a great interview with Brian Daboll.
Brian Daboll!
In a private visit. An install package came in. Preparation wasn't there for it. Got called out on it. Didn't like that.
Look, I think this checks out. We know Brian Daboll is hard on the quarterbacks they test. McShay noted the interviews didn't go well, but also said there wasn't anything disrespectful or harsh in those interviews, which is probably the truth.
Yeah, we can stop right there. That's fine. I get it. Again, accountability. It's not a Shedeur defender. I'm not about to sit here and defend Shedeur the whole time. But because I just think it's a weird situation. But all right, we got two teams. We don't really know what happened with the Raiders interview unless he covered that. But okay, you didn't do the install package. Probably should have did the install package. Probably something in the agent again, which I think that's the biggest thing here. Where it's like, all right, you got to break free from your dad, be on man, get an agent, cover your ass. Didn't do that. So you didn't know, or somebody, an agent who has relationship with these teams, go and say, hey, Brian Daboll is going to give you this if you want to go to the Giants. And if Deion's trying to control where you go where you're supposed to go, which is behind Cam Ward, do the install package, play the game, and move on. Because you're not the athlete your dad was. You're a good quarterback, but you're not you don't have the, like you said, you don't have the measurables to just get there no matter what. So you got to play the game. You got to play the game a little bit. It's flaws and it's chinks in the armor. This is going towards Shedeur Sanders, and I'm not hating him and I'm not defending him. I just want to know what the hell happened, and this is giving me a better picture of what happened. So I get it. If he interviewed and they thought he was a great person, but they didn't like that he didn't prepare. Okay, Raiders, Giants. Okay, they picked up. They got Geno. Raiders got Geno. They got Dart and Russell Wilson. Cool. And Jameis. Cool. So they're like, all right, we ain't gonna do that because we don't think it's gonna be a good fit. Which is respect it.
You cannot present yourself well by just missing the mark.
Two teams drafting in the top 10 with quarterback needs where the interviews did not go well. Not disrespectful, nothing harsh. Just felt like the phrase I've been using, and I think it aptly describes it. We didn't get the sense that Shedeur cared all that much about what we thought of him.
I think people wanted to spin this as Shedeur went in guns a-blazing and giving the room a giant meat spin instead of talking install packages.
Focus on this package, motherfucker.
We know the message is the interviews were not good, but I think Shedeur, from the advice he was receiving, approached the interviews in a way he thought or they thought would be best. And you need to actually listen to him speak on it, how he handled the interviews, which he discussed back on the DNVR podcast in March.
Character, they just want to know who I am as a person. And they understand the media and all that because they have to deal with that type of stuff too within their own organizations. No, I feel like meetings are just conversation. They get to know you. So That's why I'm thankful for anybody asking me whatever question they want to ask me. It's just a form of relatability whenever we sit down and talk, and then, like, the coach is like, we all people, we all go through the same problem, so they don't really pay that no mind when they meet me.
I will say, I think this is from that late meeting the Giants and Shedeur had. It was very late in the process. They had a private workout or whatever, and if he didn't go into that meeting prepared, it killed his chances with the Giants. And Brian Daboll was asked about the Mache report directly after the draft, and this was his response.
Specifically, you and him had a meeting that did not go very well. Anything you want to clear up on that or deny or comment on?
Yeah, I'd say we had good meetings with all the guys that came in here on 30 visits. Quarterback meetings were productive, and, we're happy with Jackson.
Daboll clearly looks annoyed by the question, took the high road without actually commenting on Shedeur. Just said all the interviews were good.
But this good on Daboll, but you know what the reporter was digging for. He wanted to get that juicy. Oh yeah, he's an asshole. This guy is not likable. that's what he wanted.
He says a lot by not saying anything, right? McShay suggests he fucked up interviews with 2 teams that he shouldn't have. He whiffed on the Brian Daboll interview by not being properly prepared, and he didn't impress the Saints. So I'm going to put this on Dion, okay? Because let's say Shedeur didn't prep for Daboll's install package like McShay revealed on his podcast. Do any of you know anything about Deion Sanders? He is one of the most notorious I don't need to prepare for shit athletes of all time. And it worked for Dion because he was a freak athlete, the rarest of rare talents. If that's how your dad presents himself to the world, how do you not catch a case of that mentality? Dion needed to prepare Shedeur like an underdog, not a top dog. Dion.
But that's what he put in. That's where we're getting at the sense of self. Which if it's my quarterback and I'm drafting him, I want him to be supremely confident. Because as a quarterback, you're gonna make mistakes. You don't get sacked. You gotta have a short memory. You're gonna throw interceptions. You're gonna fumble. Your O-line ain't gonna block, and you gotta get up. You gotta play every snap. So I need you to be supremely confident the next play as if we was up 20 or we was down 20. I need you to be the same exact way. And that's probably what you'll get out of Shedeur. I mean, there was in a lot of games where he just still. Like they pulled out some amazing games. Some games ain't go so well, but he's supremely confident. Is there some character stuff you got to work on? Yes, but that comes with coaching staff and the culture that you have on your team. Somebody who can work with them, because it's a lot of problem players. But you don't want to see it from quarterback. Like maybe it's a receiver or DB or something that's problematic, and you can work with him. But he's just not. He's a good quarterback, but he's not a freak athlete, but we know this already.
Dion, you can steal that line because it's pretty good. Dion is also an exaggerator and a liar.
I don't picture myself.
How can anyone trust a man who says that?
Never in my life, pleasure.
In your life.
Never in my life.
That's like saying you never drank water. Why do I say he's an exaggerator or a liar? Well, back on a podcast in 2024, he said he'd dictate where Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders were drafted.
Will you step in and do some of that if it's the wrong organization and say he ain't going there?
Yeah, but I'm not going to do it publicly. I'll do it privately.
This year, he said he never said that, and Shedeur would be happy anywhere. Instead of helping Shedeur answer questions teams may have had about him, they acted like they were in control of the situation, which Tom Pelissero laid out nicely.
People said that Shedeur was trying to dictate how he wanted things to go and made them feel small, even at the pro day. Throughout the pre-draft process, Shedeur Sanders very much proceeded as if he was dictating to clubs where he was going to go rather than how the draft works, which is the other way around. And there were a bunch of opportunities missed at the various checkpoints through that pre-draft process.
Poor Dylan Gabriel, though, right? He was the quarterback tipping point, the breaking point that made us all start wondering if there was a real collusion or effort to blackball Shedeur, right? I don't think there was any collusion, okay? I do believe Shedeur didn't take advantage of his opportunities to impress quarterback-needy teams, and I think this is a draft where the needy teams are far and few between. Even the fringe quarterback teams like the Seahawks and Raiders weren't high on Sanders. Shedeur was banking that his on-field production at CU would speak for him. And that's typically a smart approach. He was a really good quarterback at CU, not perfect, but pretty fucking good. And he was a key piece of the shovel that dug that football program out of its grave and resurrected it like Dr. Frankenstein. Let's just go to the quarterbacks who were drafted ahead of him, though, okay? Cam Ward. Yes, a better prospect than Shedeur with better game film. Jackson Dart to the Giants at 25. Fair. His on-field production, similar. Sanders has slightly better numbers. They're close. The Giants clearly preferred Dart. Those two players going ahead of him for pure football reasons, though, I can buy it. It makes sense. Then you got Tyler Shuck coming out of nowhere to be the 40th player drafted, right? The first quarterback to go in the second round to the Saints. Shuck. He has some NFL tools, maybe the best arm in this class, but the reason he spent 7 years in college was due to injuries. Injuries are a huge factor when evaluating a player. The Saints specifically have an injury-prone quarterback right now in Derek Carr. Shedeur has been incredibly durable at CU while taking a shit ton of sacks, but we went balls deep into Tyler Shuck. We love that dude, and I can still see why New Orleans opted for him instead of Shedeur Sanders when they picked. He's a guy who is already calloused by adversity. He's gone through the hard thing and came out looking like a leader. Shedeur's and the Seahawks drafted Jalen Milroe in the third round at pick 92.
My nephew, quarterback, Alabama, Jalen Milroe.
Milroe absolutely crushed his draft interviews. In terms of pure football traits, he offers the biggest upside of any QB in this class. He's the best running quarterback, and he has time to work on his passing, and teams are comfortable with him accepting a backup.
This is the normal draft thing where I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe the Browns would have picked him up. Maybe the Seahawks did pick him up, but maybe the Saints picked him up. Just potential alone. I mean, like you already had Taysom Hill. Y'all probably could have damn near ran Wildcat all game. They still got Taysom Hill. I don't know, but this the thing that make the most sense to me. I get Tyler Shuck. You know, he was an Oregon guy, so you know, a little bias on him. I think he can get the job done. If you need him to play right away, day one, he old enough. Shit, I mean, he almost 30, so he better start playing. Derek Carr, it look like he ain't gonna play this year, so I ain't mad at the Saints for doing that. You need a guy to play right away, execute the offense. Cool. Non-problematic. Cool. Because the last thing you need is that. So I see why they did that. Seahawks, this is potential. This is usually what you see. High ceiling. He got a way higher ceiling than Shedeur. But Shedeur's floor is higher than Jalen Milroe's floor. So this is the thing in the draft where I understand it. But we know why Jalen Milroe got drafted. We just saw the reasons why.
Up role until he develops to their liking. While I did not think Milroe would actually go ahead of Shedeur, from a purely football perspective, I still get it. Milroe is the opposite of Sanders in terms of recognizing his flaws as an athlete.
Yeah, bro, he extremely humble. He extremely humble. I watched this interview with the Pivot. We know Milroe. But it seemed like it's a common theme here where they comparing and contrasting him against other players.
There's a popular quote of Milroe making the rounds again where he said, quote, "How much time you got?" in one of his interviews when he was asked about what he needs to work on as a QB. GMs eat that shit up. An NFL team wants a player, though, who knows his weaknesses. You have to be honest with yourself. Because I think the NFL teams know what I do well approach by Sanders was a mistake.
If you ain't trying to change the franchise or the culture, don't give me. So you should know history repeats itself over and over and over.
So I'm assuming this is how his interviews with teams one-on-one. Hey, I'm sitting down here in New York. I'm sitting down here with the Saints. If you don't want to go to the playoffs, don't get me. Probably something you shouldn't say, bro. Probably something you should not say. Like,
and I've done it over and over and over, so it should be no question why an NFL franchise should pick me.
If you can't admit or articulate how you can be better, nobody will believe you can improve or progress. That doesn't make you unconfident either, because after he was drafted,
it just make it seem like you it makes you seem uncoachable. I think that's where he's trying to go with it. But also, nobody wants to hear that you also already got it all figured out. The NFL is a lot of guys they've been dealing with ego and big, rich, grown adults running around. They don't need to be dealing with your ego too. They just need you to fall in line. They just need you to fall in line, bruh.
Drafted, Milroe was asked if he had a message for all the teams that passed on him. His response was,
"Do you have any message for the teams that passed on you today?"
Belt to ass.
Belt to ass. Shedeur never gave us the humble moments so we could appreciate his belt to ass cockiness, which takes us to Dillon fucking Gabriel getting drafted by the Cleveland Browns 2 picks after Milroe. When that happened, this is how Shedeur reacted.
Dillon, you son of a bitch.
I gotcha. Dillon, you son of a bitch. The Browns traded up for Dillon Gabriel, by the way. Nobody, and I mean nobody, had Gabriel ahead of Shedeur. No offense to Dillon. I like his game. The Browns are a team in QB hell, though. They actually need a new starting quarterback at some point in the very near future. Just like nobody saw Sanders falling to the 5th round, nobody saw him going to the Browns after they already drafted a quarterback from this class. It is wild. This is what Shedeur has to do now, though. He has to go in there, and he has to work his ass off, and he has to beat out Dillon Gabriel and Kenny Pickett. Here's a sentence I did not think I would be saying. Shedeur Sanders needs to prove he's worthy of backing up Joe Flacco for the Browns. Now, if I'm Shedeur, I look at what Dillon Gabriel does. I mimic his work ethic and his hunger to improve.
I think we got to the point of this video. I don't want to run this to the end, but hey, I got what I wanted. I wanted to know why he didn't get drafted. They said his interviews was that bad, but I don't think it's that they were bad. It's what he said that made him like. I'm saying it's all wrong, but it's what he said. Like, you could have a bad interview, but it's what you said. Like, if he didn't prepare and stuff, that's fine. But if you come in there and you say you already got it figured out, man, Jalen Milroe played the game. I'm pretty sure Jalen Milroe is supremely confident in what he can do. But he just didn't tell him. You could be confident. They just don't want to hear about it. They want to hear about how you can improve, but that's just not who he is. That's just not who he is. So I think the Browns, hey, whatever they do with that, I don't think he's going to end up staying with the Browns for very long, just to be honest. I think they probably trade him. Or, like, if he sticks his contract out, he goes somewhere else where they're willing to do it. Now, is he probably going to have to get himself an agent? Yeah. But I'm glad he got drafted, bro. I'm glad Dillon Gabriel got drafted. I'm happy for the guys that got drafted. I'm not a hater. I'm not hating on Shedeur Sanders. I want him to have a good career. That's why I'm like, hey, you ain't with your dad no more. You're going to be in Cleveland, wherever you at. You're going to be in camp with these guys. Get yourself an agent, bro. Please. The best thing he could do for himself right now is have his dad with him. Have the support of his family. But do like Shiloh did. Get Shiloh agent. Because Shiloh got picked up by a team. I'm guarantee you Shiloh knew he wasn't going in no early rounds. So he probably did really well in them visits. Hence why the Bucks signed him. So, hey, man. I think that's going to be it for this video. If you want to see more sports reactions and good video about him, make sure y'all go support his channel as well. Make sure you like and subscribe. And drop a comment on what you think of the Shedeur Sanders situation, because it's still crazy no matter how bad he interviewed, bro. The Browns could have took him way earlier or something. The Browns could have took him way earlier, bro. That's all I'm saying. If he was going to draft him anyway, Dillon Gabriel probably still was going to be there. Or I'm hearing they jumped ahead of I heard a little theory that they was going to jump ahead because the Eagles was going to pick him up and have him as a backup to Jalen Hurts. Because I feel like him and Jalen Hurts would have been a good pairing to just kind of get his mind right. But what do I know? Without further ado, I'm going to get us up out of here. Cool.